All right. So for those who do not know, my name is Jill. I am a certified health and life coach here with Melveda. You know what? Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pin myself so you all can see my lovely face. Okay, now let's officially begin. I am Jill. Technology is not always my friend, but we appreciate it anyways because I get to connect with all of you. So I am a certified health and wellness coach here with Melveda. So a lot of the work that I do, a lot of it overlaps with life coaching and health coaching, because at the end of the day, without our health, there's really not much. So a lot of the work that I do is focusing a lot more on that confidence, that personal development piece, because so many of my clients, myself included, that are going through life, we don't always realize that there are certain things that are keeping us blocked, certain things that are keeping us stuck from moving forward. So a lot of whether it's so much focusing on your health, or whether it is more life. So that's career, confidence, anything like that. It's all about getting to the root cause of what is truly driving that unhappiness that's keeping you stuck, and uncovering that, healing that, so we can clear out all of those old patterns, those old ways of thinking, believing, self-talk, right? So that we can clear all that out, understand why it was there in the first place, so that we can continue to build, continue to grow, continue to implement our own new, healthier habits and new ways of thinking. So we are Melveda. So I'm curious, who here is brand new to Melveda, or this is their first Melveda webinar? Just a quick yes or no in the chat box.
Never heard of it.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. Thank you for chiming in. All right, awesome. New, yes, I love all these new people. Oh, pressure's on. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Awesome. So we are Melveda. We are a life coaching company. So we cover all things life. So life coaching, that's my specialty. So a lot of people kind of with life coaching, it's like, what actually is life coaching? And so that's kind of the beauty of what I get to do with my clients, is people will say, I don't really know what I should be doing in my life. I'm fine. I'm okay. I just feel like I could be doing more. That's exactly what that is figuring out what is going to excite you, what lights you up, what is helping you to really, truly live your life. That's what we get to uncover. Same thing with health. As you know, health, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, social health, relationships. There's so much that health encompasses, and it can be really vague, but it is very individualistic. And so depending on what your actual health goals are, that's what we get to do. We get to work together to uncover what that is and figure out customize a plan to help you actually get there. And I was very honored, very excited to be part of actually building out the health and wellness program that we have with Melveda. So I can say that it is excellent. We also cover leadership coaching and career coaching. So so we have clients that come in from whether looking for a new job or transitioning, or elevating their leadership skills. Even if you're brand new to leadership or a veteran, we've got you covered there. So we really are a one-stop shop for all things life and helping you live your life, right there in our title. All right, check the chat box. Awesome, Julie, great. Who's your coach? I love that. I guess I should also ask who is John? Oh, you are lucky, Julie. John is fantastic. Curious, is anyone else? Yes, any other clients we have on here? Melveda clients. We have Brooke. Brooke is also, I'm just biased to all of our coaches. Whoever it is, I'll just say they're awesome because they are. Great, I love this. Okay, good. Let's keep going. We've got a lot to do today. So goals, focus areas for today. The power of positive self-talk. Identify where and just understand where negative self-talk actually comes from, because a lot of them, we'll get into it, a lot of it is kind of goes on behind the scenes. We're not always recognizing that negative self-talk is actually impacting us and keeping us stuck. We might think that we're really working on, positive thinking and all that stuff, but there's a lot that goes on in the background that we're not always aware of. Learning how to catch ourselves in that negative self-talk. So much of this work is about presence and just being non-judgmental and being compassionate with ourselves, but learning how to recognize it so that we know how to change it. And then shifting, of course, from negative to more positive self-talk. All right, so curious, has anyone heard this before? Our thoughts are not truth unless we want them to be. Or some sort of version of it, some sort of variation of it. Curious. Who has heard this before? Cool, good, all right. Awesome, love this. Oh, my other chat box so that I can answer those questions really quickly. And also for anyone who is asking for more information, I will definitely absolutely be sharing plenty of information in a recap email that I'll be sending out tomorrow, which will include the recording, other resources, and all of the ways that you can stay connected with Melveda. It is much like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yes, that is true. That is true. All right. Okay, great. So our thoughts are not truth unless we want them to be. So this is one of those, of course, we can kind of, take it with a grain of salt, but it's just recognizing that there are so many different messages that are constantly going through our head, whether it's, thoughts that have been projected onto us, or if it's thoughts that are our own. It's hard to kind of decipher between them, but we have these thoughts that are constantly on a negative loop. Now, most of them are not actually truth. They're not actually fact. So anytime that we have these thoughts that constantly occupy our space, right? This is negative thoughts that we kind of get snagged on. But if we are constantly listening to and thinking that every single thought that goes through our head, we have over 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So if all of those are true, life would be a lot more chaotic and crazy, right? So it's just recognizing that our thoughts are just thoughts. And the only time that we actually want them to be true is when we act on them and we make them true. And so something else that, with kind of these thoughts, this idea of negative thinking going on in the background, kind of subconsciously, right? Is that if a person was learned as a child that they might not be worthy enough or good enough or successful enough or however it is, they can grow up thinking that, but it might not actually be truth. And so in those places, that's when we want to show ourselves that these are not actually true, and creating our own ways and making thoughts that are true actually serve us. So I love that one. Okay, what is self-talk? I know it might sound like a kind of a softball, easy one, but I'm curious what, in your own definition, go ahead and put in the chat. What is your idea of self-talk? What does that actually mean to you? I would love just, a few words in the chat box if you have any. Just what's the meaning? What is self-talk for you? Inner dialogue. Good. Voice in my head. Daily thoughts. Yes, exactly. Okay. How I talk to myself. Perfect. All right. I got my chat box up right here now. So we're good. Just set goals and see them through what you think you are. Perfect. Yeah. So these are all different. I just like to ask, kind of what people's different definitions are, just to get a working definition of what we're actually talking about today. All our thoughts, daily voice in my head. Yep. Crushing it. These are all exactly perfectly correct. So self-talk. So each of us has a set of messages or thoughts or daily voices, right? Daily messages. We'll just stick with messages for now that play over and over in our minds. So that's internal dialogue. That's reactions to different things going on. That's just observations. That's judgments. That's just awareness and its different circumstances. And so one way to recognize this is to just constantly be aware of what is actually going on in our head. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Because too often our negative self or our self-talk, so those voices in our head, those thoughts, all of those interactions, those observations, is that the pattern that we tend to develop is negative, unfortunately, right? Because when we're younger, less any parents, caregivers, anyone that has this awareness, this knowledge, but most of us do not. So we go through life. We start off with, young, naive, intuitive, bright, happy kids. Then we grow up and life kind of happens and things kind of dim our light. Things happen to us, different circumstances, challenges, trauma, all of these things that can kind of mask that and because self-talk, so much of it is subconscious meaning we're not always aware that it's going on because so much of it is subconscious. It can be a little bit more challenging to recognize where those blocks are and where the negative self-talk is actually impacting us. And so throughout the years, we've had all of these messages playing on and on and on. But we don't always realize that some of those messages are actually keeping us stuck. They're preventing us. We're self-sabotaging. We might just keeping ourselves small from moving forward. So we want to recognize what is the self-talk so that we know how to shift it. And the kicker here is that it absolutely matters how you talk to yourself, but also how you talk about yourself. So we'll go through some of the other different tactics on just like awareness on how we actually talk to ourselves. But think about that, talking to ourselves and when we talk about ourselves. So keep that in mind. Okay, so different types of negative self-talk. So this is just that observation, just recognizing what is actually out there. How is self-talk impacting us? And I try not to use negative or positive because those are relative and completely dependent on the individual. But for the sake of today, we'll just stick with negative and positive just for ease. So first, personalizing. So this is more so along the lines of it's not you, it's me. And so if something bad happens, we automatically think that it's our fault. We automatically assume that we're the one to blame. So I'm curious, does anyone observe that in their own lives where if something bad happens, they automatically assume that it's me? Because that is me. All of these are me. Why I'm talking on this topic. Definitely. Yep. Yeah. And so thinking about that, yes, all the time. That's okay. That's good. We're human. That means that we're human, right? So give yourself some ease. Yes, definitely. See, not alone. So personalizing. So the thing that we want to do here, so this is all about recognizing, right? Just being aware. So in those moments, one, just recognizing, how does that actually make you feel in the moment when something bad happens and you immediately think that it's your fault? Makes that moment so much, in my opinion, so much worse, so much heavier. And it doesn't do us any good. It does not serve us for the better if we just assume that every single bad thing is our fault or we're to blame. So the challenge here is just asking ourselves, is there evidence to support this? And is this actually fact, or is this just my interpretation of what happened? So is this actually what happened, or is this my interpretation of what happened? So we just want to take a step back in these moments where we find ourselves blaming, just take a step back and observe, is this actually my fault? Am I actually the one to blame? And acknowledge that and just try to look for more realistic reasons. And the thing that I should have mentioned before is that when it comes to positive self-talk, I'll talk on this a little bit, but when it comes to positive self-talk, it's not necessarily, because we'll also touch on toxic positivity in a second, it's not just positivity whitewashing all over, positivity washing all over all of our self-talk, right? It's about getting to the truth. It's about recognizing what the truth is so that we feel that we have the space to step out and to actually address it. All right, so I see someone raising their hand. If you want to go ahead, I missed who it was, but if you want to ask, if you have a question right now, you can go ahead and unmute yourself really quick and ask if that's why you have your hand raised. It was Neela, maybe? Or, maybe for the question. I'll keep going. Okay, so that personalizing. So take a step back and acknowledge, like, what is the actual truth here? And is blaming yourself for all of the bad things happening actually serving you? Find the truth. Where is the truth here? So then another one is filtering. Filtering is an official term, but I like more like magnifying, because this is when you magnify and only focus on the negative. Again, This is something that I constantly working through. So let's say, for example, you get a huge promotion, you have all these celebrations, much deserved. It's great. You get a raise, all this stuff. But the only thing that you're focusing on is the fact that your promotion wasn't as much money as you had needed or hoped. So instead of recognizing all of the progress that you made and the celebration and what it is that, all right, Nina, so I see you're raising for that. Okay, good. Is that you're only focusing on the negative. And what does that do? My opinion for what's happened with me is that it completely derails all of the celebration and the good work that we got promoted for, right? So recognizing that focusing on, so what we want to do in those moments, right, to work through this filtering, magnifying is gratitude. Gratitude has been scientifically proven over and over again that it actually physically actually changes the rewiring and wiring the biology of our brain to focus on the positives more. When we can consistently and intentionally express gratitude and why we're grateful for those things, it actually rewires our brain to focus on the positive. So gratitude, celebrating wins every day on the top of my laptop. When I close my laptop, I have wins, something I do with my clients all the time. This is, you'd be surprised how many people find it challenging at the end of the workday. What are you proud of yourself for today? What are your wins? And if it's challenging for you to do that, you just got to flex that muscle and just got to start doing it. So gratitude helps to focus on the positive, and then so does celebrating those wins. Catastrophizing. Holy, this is a challenging one, especially given just everything going on in the world and just these last 2 years. It's easy to let our minds wander that way. But catastrophizing, what does that actually do for us? Again, just the same thing. Mute the sound of participants. Is someone, just a reminder, everyone, can you please mute yourself if you are not muted? I can't hear that, but if you can, that'd be great. Okay, so this is a big one. This is when you're anticipating the absolute worst, always. Again, how does that actually serve us? And is that actually true? We just want to take a step back, observe the situation, and ask ourselves, is this thing actually, this catastrophic thinking, could this actually happen? Is this an uncomfortable situation that we're in right now? Or is this actually catastrophic? How likely is this to happen? So asking ourselves these questions, right? Asking ourselves these questions, just breaking that pattern. So if we're used to catastrophizing, holy cow, all of these different experiences, then we have to work on recognizing that so we can break that so it doesn't keep playing on in the background. Polarizing, this is the whole good or bad, right or wrong. It's just very black or white thinking. There's no middle ground. So let's say, for example, you move your body all week, you're feeling good, but then Friday rolls around, you skip it. Maybe you didn't, you're not feeling as well, and you skip out on that Friday, but you get really hard on yourself for missing that movement on Friday. So then you're just mentally sabotaging all of your work, and you just chalk this week up. Oh my God, I was so bad this week. Just because of that one day. And you're polarizing bad from the good and completely ignoring and missing out on the fact that you had done so much good stuff for yourself throughout the day. So not recognizing, not focusing on that one off day. It's not even a bad day. So how do we work through this? Recognizing those blanket statements. This is another one that I hear all the time. I hear it from myself, but I also hear it from clients. I'm always late. I never wake up early. I always sleep in. I always hit snooze to death. Those blanket statements and those jumping to conclusions are not serving us in any way, shape, or form, because again, challenging that fact, getting to that truth. So flag those self-deprecating statements, flag those polarizing, those blanket statements of, I am always this, I am never that. And investigate, challenge those thoughts. Is that actually true? Is that actually true? All right, any questions so far? We good with sound and all of that stuff? Okay, good. I'll keep going. We'll have time at the end for Q&A, so I'll keep going. All right, so I wanted to mention this really quick, and I won't spend too much time on this, but I'm curious, Who here has heard of toxic positivity? Just a quick yes or no in the chat box. Just curious if this is, yep, no, some no's. Okay, lots of yeses. All right. So toxic positivity is the official definition is the overgeneralization of a happy, optimistic state that results in denial, minimization, and invalidation of the human emotional experience. In other words, pretending everything is fine when it's not. And so this is something that I experienced myself when I first started down with personal development, before I even became a coach. I thought that I could just positively think all of my problems away, all of my all of my emotions that I was trying to run away from. I thought I could just, everything's fine, we're all fine, everything's fine, right? But what that does is that when we are trying to suppress or deny certain emotions, so we'll just state the obvious: anger, frustration, shame, embarrassment, anxiety, stress, different emotions, different feelings, sensations that are not always the most welcome. They're not the warmest emotions, but they're still emotions, right? But when we get to ignoring all of the bad, negative emotions, it also leads to suppressing all of the emotions, because emotions are just energy. It's energy in our bodies. It's energy in our bodies that's triggered from our brain. So if we are constantly just suppressing that energy, those emotions, it's eventually going to bubble up and explode in our faces. How many people have experienced something like this before, where you just try and shove it down, you ignore it, you suppress it, and then all of a sudden you just snap, something happens, the eggs crack and break, and you just break down and let all of the emotions out, start crying, freaking out. That's happened to me more times than I can count. So just recognizing that toxic positivity is there. And so signs of this and how we resolve this, and this is, again, it's called a Tuesday. Oh, Karen, that made me laugh. But yes, that is, everything's fine. We're all fine. So the thing, and again, I wanted to mention this just to be aware of this, but this work, toxic positivity and emotional processing and emotional intelligence, is something that I do all the time with my clients. But just recognizing that if there are any emotions that we try to ignore or that we try to suppress, just get a little bit more accepting of the entire emotional spectrum, so that we're not suppressing those. Because when we suppress the negative, we're also ignoring the sensations of the positive. So just recognizing, remembering that. Okay, so this is a tool that I get to use with my clients. I learned this myself. I still use this myself. So I'm curious, has anyone heard of TFAR or RAFT or anything like this? Curious if this is new, or anyone has seen something like this or similar. Okay, so maybe not. Cool, great, love it. So TFAR, it's not the sexiest title. It's literally just the abbreviation. So if anyone has a better, more fun name for this, please put it in the chat. So TFAR, so this is a tool that I use that really helps us to observe the negative self-talk patterns that we might not recognize are going on. Remember, I just said we have so many thoughts a day. A lot of them are going on in the background we don't even recognize. So this tool helps us to observe, kind of a little bit oversimplifying, but it's a high level view of, we have a belief or a situation or experience. It's on the outside. So whatever that happens, our thoughts, this is our reactive process. So that experience or belief triggers a thought. And so that thought then triggers feelings or an emotion or a sensation. And so those feelings then influence our actions or our behaviors. And then our actions, behaviors is what creates our results, what creates our life, what creates our being. And so by recognizing that this is kind of this process, what we can do, we can observe it, and we can work backwards to dissect it, kind of reverse engineering, to get to plug it in so that we can start to create a more positive process from thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And the thing about, I started to touch on this before, the thing about positive self-talk, it's that it's not self-deception. It's not toxic positivity. It's not trying to just think all of these positive feelings, actions, results, and just think that it's going to be there. It's not mentally looking at these circumstances, with things that you just want to see. It's all about recognizing that truth. So remember, I talked about that before. It's not just everything's great and we're just going to positively feel this, because sometimes the truth is challenging. And sometimes the truth is not what we want to see or what we want to hear, or what we want to feel. But in that truth is power, and that truth is freedom. So sometimes understanding and dissecting the positive self, or dissecting your self-talk, might uncover some things, but that's what coaches are for, right? But then also just recognizing that it's not just about that positive, elated state. It's about getting to the truth. It's about wiping out and clearing out all of those fake factual thoughts that do not serve you. So just remembering that. All right. So this is where we get into how actually we implement this. So we want to bring awareness first. This is all about awareness first. And sometimes awareness is the hardest part. We don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize that we have these crazy negative thoughts kind of swirling around in there. It's like, holy cow. So we want to bring awareness first. So this is that reverse engineering. So how we dissect this. So going to that, that the bubble is our results first. So what results in your life right now are not serving you? Or what results would you like to change? So when you write that in, and I'll share this, I have a worksheet that combines this with the previous slide just on one thing. So I'll make sure to share that so you guys have the TFAR worksheet for you. So just want to note that. All right, so results. What results? What's not working? What's not working here? So, and then actions. So we're peeling back the layers, reverse engineering. What actions am I taking that are leading to this result? Or inaction, right? What am I not doing? Because inaction is still an action, right? So what am I doing that's leading to this result? And then feelings. So how am I feeling now because of my actions? So that could be, for example, I guess I could share examples with these, might be easier. So feelings. So let's say feeling of, so we'll start with results. What results are not serving? I am not up to my health and wellness goal. I'm still working on my health and wellness. I'm just not there. I can't be motivated, can't get off the couch. I'm just not doing anything productive. Okay, results. What results are not serving me? Not being healthy, feeling sore, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, burnt out, no motivation, no space to do anything that I want to do. Okay, so results. So what actions? Well, I'm not moving my body. I'm not prioritizing, my food that actually feels good for my body. I am ordering out a lot. I'm, all these things. So what are those actions? And then feelings. How am I feeling? I'm feeling lethargic. I'm just feeling crappy, tired, exhausted, unmotivated. So now this is the awareness part. So what thoughts are you actually telling yourself that's creating this snowball effect? So what thoughts are triggering these feelings of not enoughness, unworthiness, whatever it might be? Where are those thoughts? And so this is what takes a lot of this work. Again, this process, this whole framework is what I usually work on my clients for like months at a time. So it's not something that's definitely meant to be done overnight, but it's that awareness piece. So just recognizing, where are your thoughts when you're starting to get ready to start your day or to do movement or any sort, prioritizing your nutrition or whatever it is? Where are your thoughts? What are you telling yourself? So then we want to change the pattern. So this is where we get to the implementation part. So changing your patterns. What new result would you rather have in your life? Well, I want to be active, energetic. I want to feel good. I want to feel confident. I don't want to be tired. Okay, great. So what actions do you need to take in order to align with that result? Again, this takes a lot because there's just so many different ways that you can get to an end goal. This is all about figuring out what those actions are that are aligned with your lifestyle. What works for you? What works for you? So what actions? Well, I want to move my body at least once a day. I want to make sure I give myself time for self-care. I want to cook meals 3 times a day, whatever it might be. What actions are going to get you to that result? The same thing with feelings. I want to feel energized and motivated and rested and confident and courageous. What is that? And then your thoughts. What can you tell yourself that will trigger a more positive feeling for yourself? And this is all about, this is the work that I do with my clients on confidence. It starts with us. It all starts here. It all starts here. So what can you tell yourself that's going to trigger that, motivate more positive feeling? All right. Do you have any questions about TFAR or RAFT? No questions yet. If you do have questions, again, we'll save time at the end, but I'll share this worksheet with you so you have this and you can do this yourself. Okay. So now we're going to.
I have a question.
Oh, yes. Hi.
Oh, oops. Now we're on a different page. Sorry. I can wait till later.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'm wondering if you can explain a little bit more about, so for example, another way to describe what results are not serving me. Does that mean what can I see in my life, in the physical reality of my life that isn't working for me? Would that be another way of saying what that means?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's again, like I said, this is kind of like an oversimplified high level tool, but it's just meant to really help to bring more awareness. So however you want to interpret results, whatever results are, what that means for you, that's not serving you, that's you. Great question. Really great question. Okay, can you give an example of the new thoughts based on the wellness example about wanting to feel more confident, courageous? Example of new thoughts. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, did I skip over those? I might have. Apologies. Yes, so changing your pattern. So results, actions, feelings, what are those thoughts? So we'll get to this in a second, but thank you for asking that question. So something that I like to do, and the positive affirmations is on the next slide, but I'll touch on it again here, is that we want to start, instead of just jumping ship and going from, let's say our thoughts, our negative thoughts are, I'm not fit enough, I'm not healthy enough, I'll never get to my goal, I'll never, whatever it might be, right? Instead of just jumping all the way to, I am confident, I am healthy, I am courageous, I'm in the best shape of my life, kind of like that toxic positivity, right? We already know that those things might not be true yet. So we want to give ourselves that space to work towards them. So instead of just saying those positive, toxic positivity thoughts, start with something like, I'm in the process of reconnecting with my body so that I can create a healthy lifestyle that is meant for me. I'm in the process of, and filling in the blank, whatever that is. So other thoughts you can do, that's because that's a little bit more kind of like mantra, but something is, it could be, I am not at my health goal right now, but I am continually prioritizing and I'm trying. I am taking little baby steps day by day to make small improvements consistently and intentionally. There's so many different ways you can go about that. But yeah, so cheap. Yes. Affirmations. Exactly. Okay. Really quick, doing a quick pause or a mute. I think someone has themselves off of mute. If you could just go ahead. Finishing up right now on ways to talk to ourselves. So does that answer your question? I think I had a few questions.
I think that's Giorgio who's not on mute.
Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. I'll go ahead and make that. Oh, okay. That is. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can mute whoever that is. Thank you. All right. Let's keep going. Okay. Thank you for whoever called out Giorgio. Okay. Great. So any other questions on that? We'll save that towards the end. I'm trying to make sure we have enough time. But really just take that TFAR thing with however you really want to use that. It's completely yours. There's no right or wrong way to use it. It's totally for you, just to create more awareness and an action plan to help you move forward. All right. So 5 ways. So these are different ways. So we talked about different ways of negative self-talk. But this is different ways that we can talk to ourselves. So first name. So using our first name. I'm curious, would love to, oh, you know what? Hang on, I don't think am I in present mode? It's all good. All right, we're fine. Okay, so first name. So who's used this before where you might talk to yourself using your first name? So like, okay, Jill, we got this. We can do this today. Does anyone talk in first person or use their first name? Yes, I do sometimes. Not all the time. I probably can use it a lot more. Yes, yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, this is awesome because research all the time, but only negatively. That's okay, Kelly. That's okay. That's what we're here for, right? That's what this work is. Not all the time. Great. Okay. So the cool thing is that research has shown studies over and over again that silently referring to ourselves in the first person instead of I actually gives us psychological distance from the parts of our brain that actually narrows down and only helps us only focus on the negative parts. So we're kind of talking about that magnifying. So by using our first name, it helps us to kind of separate ourselves from that experience, from whatever is going on. Like, okay, Jill, all right, so let's look at this. What do we have here? Okay, so we've got a really busy day. Okay, we can do this. We can do this, right? And you're kind of talking like almost like, talking to your team. But when you're in it and saying like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do today, this is not going to get done, it's a little bit different of an experience, right? So using that, just studies continually showing that using your first name really does help to move yourself away from the actual situation. It's a question, never did that. Are you supposed to also answer yourself when you do? Sure, absolutely. Make it a whole conversation. Conversations, our thoughts, if you ever stop and listen to our thoughts, they are back and forth all the time. I really want to eat that piece of pizza. I don't know if I want to eat that pizza. I really want to go. Back and forth. Why not have that conversation with yourself in a more positive way? What if someone hates his first name? What's your nickname? What's something else that you can say to yourself that you recognize yourself as? Love that. That's a good question. Okay, so first name. So that really helps to separate yourself. Broadening your lens. So we are hardwired for survival. So if we get a fight or flight, something negative happens, something, whatever it is, that our brain, we're actually hardwired for tunnel vision. So we only focus on the negative, what's happening, that magnifying type, right? And so, but as our brain zeroes in, it doesn't always give us the full scope of how to separate ourselves to move about that. So broadening our lens. So when we take self-talk through a wide lens, it allows us to step back from the challenge. So if we find ourselves just only focusing on the small details and not really giving ourselves that space, just take a step back and broaden that lens so that we can see the bigger picture. Because we probably know how to deal with the thing at hand. But if we're so focused on the negative that's not working, it doesn't always help. So just take a step back. What's the whole picture here? What's the wide angle? Self-compassion. Oh, compassion is so challenging when it comes to negative self-talking and shifting that. And I say that from experience, but oh my goodness, compassion allows for love. Compassion allows for ease, allows for peace, allows for failure, allows for getting back on the horse again. Compassion, self-compassion is so vital, especially when we're making any sort of changes in our life, especially with personal development. So self-compassion, there are studies that there is a direct link between self-compassion and happiness, well-being and success. So studies show actually that meditation and different mindful movements can actually help expand our self-compassion capacity. So self-compassion is something that you don't always embody or implement all the time. Practice that and see what opens that up for you and see how that opens up for you. So it would also, actually, I want to save time for Q&A, but self-compassion, very important, not always the easiest, but it's there because think about whenever we're making changes, it's so much easier to make changes when we're open and from a loving place, from a loving energy, compassionate energy, instead of anger and frustration and we're really tight and closed off. Open up for that change. And then acknowledge. So this is kind of going back to that whole like first name, acknowledging are parts that are separated from ourselves. So if we're worried or stressed, anxious, angry, instead of saying, I'm such an angry person, or I'm always anxious, separate ourselves, create that distance. Holding these parts at arm's length helps us to process them a little bit easier because it's a separate aspect of ourselves. We're experiencing anger, we're experiencing anxiety, we're experiencing frustration, sadness right now, and that's okay because it's temporary. It doesn't mean that we're an angry person. We're experiencing it. So acknowledge that, separate yourself from that. And then self-affirmations. Again, all of these science-backed, scientifically proven. These scientists actually from Berkeley conducted a series of studies showing that positive affirmations function as cognitive expanders, bringing a wider perspective to diffuse the brain's tunnel vision of self-threats. How awesome is that? That all of that tunnel vision, that magnifying and focusing on the negative and all the bad stuff and all this, is that self-affirmations are actually scientifically proven to expand that lens for you. How cool is that? That's awesome. So self-affirmations, back to that one question that we talked about. I'm in the process of learning to be more compassionate with myself. I'm in the process of learning to accept my flaws and, step into a more confident version of myself, whatever that is. I'm in the process of, and put Post-its everywhere, make that consistent, make that part of your daily routine. So important, so important. All right, so I have a few more. I do want to save time, so let's see. Okay, so let's go. All right, so here's just kind of like a real life thing to kind of process and work through right now. So taking everything that we have just done. So this is that. So now we've recognized it. We know what tactics and tools we want to use. So now how do we actually do this in real time? So I invite you, take a few minutes. We'll just do this kind of quickly, but this is something else. I'll share some of these slides with you after, just to more of the thought-provoking ones. What are some negative thoughts that are occupying your time right now? So thinking about, like, where does your brain kind of get snagged? So when you're just going about and all of a sudden, a negative thought pops in, it could be about yourself. It could be about someone else. It could be, about a coworker, partner, sister, sibling, whatever. What are those negative thoughts? And so in that moment, when we kind of get stuck on that, you want to practice that. Remember, creating that space. Okay, I'm having this negative thought. Now, what's the story around that? Is this actually true? Is it actually true? What is the truth in there? Because remember, positive self-talk, it's all about getting to the truth. Perfect example, Kelly. Okay, mistake I made at work. Great. Let's talk through this. We'll talk through this really quickly. This is literally like an entire coaching session, but I'll try to do it quickly. So mistake I made at work. So the negative thoughts that are coming up, right? So what are those? And you can use TFAR for this. You can dissect that. Where are those thoughts? Is that impacting you? Is that keeping you stuck? But right now, what are those negative thoughts? Okay. And recognizing one, actually, what's in your control? We can't really control the past, right? We can only control what is now. So what is that story? So thinking about the mistake you made at work all the time, you can't change it. So what does worrying about the story right now do for you? Are you creating a bigger story about yourself, right? Maybe attaching, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I'm gonna get fired. Then you go to the catastrophic thinking, like, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake. Oh my gosh, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna get fired. Like the worst thinking. Okay, what's the truth in that? What's the truth in that? There's no truth. Or maybe, you got some feedback from your boss or your manager. It was hard. Fine. Great. You can only move forward from here. So you learn it. So what's the news story? Well, my news story that for me be like, I make mistakes, but the more mistakes you make, the more you learn. So if that's a story that works for you, stick with it. But of course, that's just for me. So what works for you? What's a new story that you can tell yourself to help you keep moving forward, finding the truth so that that mistake doesn't keep popping up? And anytime it does, all you have to say is just replace it with that new story. So, oh my God, that mistake I made at work. Ugh. That's okay. I'm a human being. Mistakes lead to learning. I'm only improving, or whatever that might be, right? So what's that new story? What's that new story you can tell ourselves? Okay, I'm going to go to this. So we are, I'm going to save some of these questions for the end. So here you go. Kind of run through this really quick, but how are you going to make intentional self-talk part of your daily routine? Knowing that those messages are always circulating, always going on in our head, how can we prioritize intentional self-talk? And this is kind of feel free to share, but a little bit more of a rhetorical question, but what are you going to commit to yourself? What are you going to start doing today to recognize and observe those negative thoughts? And what works of all of the things we discussed today, all of the tools, all the frameworks, what do you think works best for you in shifting those? So just think about that. What's your commitment? What's your commitment? And then what's one takeaway from today? Would love to know. Would love to know what's your takeaway from today, whether it's, I don't know, TFAR, just being here, just being proud of yourself for showing up. What's a takeaway that you have from today? TFAR, yeah, that's always, I feel like I always know the answer to this one, because TFAR is always a popular one, but love it. Would love to know. Okay, while you're thinking on your takeaways and your questions, I promise we'll get to questions. I do want to share this. I did this, I mentioned this before, but I really actually do not offer this that often. But I would love to offer a free 30-minute strategy session for 3, I say new attendees. So if you have scheduled a strategy session with me before, or if you are a current client, sorry, I love you so much, but this is not for you. These are for people who are interested in exploring coaching with Melveda. And why I say that is because we're actually going to give you a little peek into what coaching with Melveda looks like, but more so with me in the capacity of life and health. So if you have something that you're really working towards that you just feel stuck, you can't make progress, whatever that is. Here, let me I'll grab the link for you. I'll share the link in a second. But I just want to keep this up for a minute. For anyone who's interested, I'm going to post the link once I stop sharing, and then go ahead and sign up. You'll see my Calendly. Go ahead and sign up, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll move into questions. All right. So let me go I'm going to grab that. Shoot. Yeah. I'll grab the link in a second. Actually, I'll also include the link in the follow-up email in the recap, just in case. But I will say that those links do go quick. So I'm just going to pick this up. Okay. Do this. Cool. All right. Jill. All right. /help with Jill. Okay, there you go. I think you can click on that. That should work. Okay, questions. So that link right there, that is for the complimentary strategy session for those interested in exploring Melveda or coaching with Melveda. You might be on the fence. Come get a little experience of what it's like to coach with us. Okay, I know I only have 3 minutes. We kind of got to a little bit of a rough start. Apologies. So I'm going to go through some of these questions. If you all don't mind, if you're okay staying a little bit over, I'll try and get to these as quickly as I can. Otherwise, if you have a question, use that strategy session. We can dig into that as well. Okay, so I saw a few, maybe they weren't necessarily questions, but feeling like I'm going to be stuck in my bad physical place. Okay. There's some people who are focused on themselves and ignore. Okay. So these are going back to, I know this is the one I wanted to touch on. It's often much easier for me to be compassionate towards others than it is to myself. Yes, of course it is, because it's so much easier to talk about other people's accomplishments and achievements. So much easier to put other people first. And I say, a lot of that time, especially with women, we take that on. We kind of put ourselves for others first. We put ourselves last. So if we're so used to complimenting others and giving other people, You know, even if we get compliments, how many of us kind of shoo away the compliments and we don't even take it? Someone's like, oh, great job. You did a really great job today. We're like, no, I like messed up here and there, right? Practice just receiving that. And something else, Lori, that you can practice on are those gratitude, those wins at the end of the day. What are you proud of yourself for? What are you proud of yourself for? And get used to that, because this is all, we're so used to not doing these things. So unfortunately, the other way around is get used to doing these things. So practice that compassion. At the end of the night, if you like to read before bed or journal, just a few things. What are you proud of yourself for? Even if it's just showering, write it down. We have to flex this muscle of focusing on the positives. If we don't flex it, if we don't actually use it, it's going to stay weak. I know it's really tacky to say, but if you don't flex it, gotta flex it. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Are there any other questions? Myrtle, can you show again how you will make intentional self-talk? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to share, there's like 3, I think I owe you all 3 slides, the TFAR, the intentional talk, I'll include that, the self-talk slide, and then I think there was one other. I'll share those though. It's a good question. Okay, I think I'm just looking at some of these comments. I love this. Oh, I love the learnings. Refer to myself by my first name instead of I. Yes, that one is really powerful. Guys, that one's really powerful. I am to meditate more to encourage the energy for self-love. Yes, these are such beautiful affirmations. I love these. Okay, so now that we're right at 2:00. So all of these affirmations and all of these things that you all are excited to learn and to implement, how are you going to keep those? How are you going to consistently and intentionally make this part of your everyday? Because that's the thing about this. It's intentional and consistent. It's like building a habit, right? How can we make this real? What do we need to do in order to make this part of our everyday life? Because it's challenging and it's not easy, but it's not impossible. Good news is, if we learned how to think negatively about ourselves, that means we can unlearn it and relearn how to be more confident about ourselves and how to have that positive self-talk, right? All right. Okay. Well, I didn't think that we were going to get through everything. I know I kind of sped through some of those last slides, but I hope everyone got their questions answered. And if you didn't, or if any other questions come up after, once everything settles and you let all of this digest, I'll share my email, but I'll also share all of my contact information, everything in the recap email, because I send the recap emails. So I'll make sure if you have any other questions, you can just respond there and ask me. Michelle, are you going to be doing any more free presentations? Yes, I probably should have mentioned that. On Melveda, we do free webinars every single week. I try to do mine at least once or twice a month. My next one is on imposter syndrome actually, that's in October. So I'll make sure that I share that. And if you are already registered for, this, you should be signed up for our other webinars, but I'll make sure to include that in the recap so you can so you can see all of the free webinars that we have going on. Great question. Thanks for asking that, Michelle. Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, if anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will let you all get back to your days. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know this is a lot and I'm really passionate about this topic. So if you have any other questions, let me know. I could jam on this stuff all day, and I hope to see some of you in those strategy sessions as well. Thank you, everybody. Of course. Yeah, no problem. I love doing this. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again soon.